A very good evening to you all, and welcome to our virtual options evening for Year 9 students. I just want to start by saying a very happy New Year to you all, and I trust that you and your families are all well. Under normal circumstances, of course, we would like to meet with you in person and to talk through a lot of the decisions and so on that you've got to take in terms of choosing your options this year. But for obvious reasons, we're having to conduct this meeting in a virtual way. So the purpose of this presentation is to provide you with as much information as possible regarding the choices at Key Stage 4. And I know that many of those decisions that you have to take, you will have some time to consider, thinking about all of the different possibilities and consider those carefully with your children. And have an opportunity also to listen to a number of presentations from each subject area as well. We want to provide you with opportunity to ask questions, and normally that would happen as a result of conversations you would have with individuals, but we need to do that in a slightly different way this evening. So effectively, there are 3 pathways available for children in Year 9 in terms of what choices they can take. The 3 pathways are the traditional pathway, the open pathway, and the vocational pathway. I'll begin by saying that the vast majority of our students will follow either the traditional pathway or the open pathway, and that's purely a choice for parents and individuals to take. For those children who follow our vocational pathway, usually the method for that is by invitation. We would normally meet with people in a particular room to do that, but as I say, we're not going to be doing that this evening. So if I can begin with the traditional pathway in the first instance and talk to you about what that looks like. So the traditional pathway, as with other pathways, the core remains the same, that all children will study English language and English literature for 5 hours per week. For some children, that looks like Year 10 focused on English literature, where many of those children will take their GCSE English literature at the end of Year 10 and then concentrate on their English language in Year 11. However, there are some children that will study their English literature and language throughout the 2-year window and will sit both exams at the end of that period. Maths GCSE children will continue to learn from their mathematics for 4 hours per week. And because science GCSE is in the main 2 GCSEs, they also have 5 hours per week designated time. Our commitment to physical education for 2 hours per week as part of the core offer, this is a non-examined element of curriculum, also incorporates some time for relationships, sex, health education, but in the main that is physical education for 2 hours per week. As part of the traditional pathway leads to something called the EBAC, or the English Baccalaureate. In order to achieve the English Baccalaureate, or the EBAC, students must follow a particular line of study, in that they must study either history or geography. So that would be one of their options. The second option must mean that they select a modern foreign language. And then the third option would be any other option from the other range of subjects. We offer something in addition to that for some of our students who are looking to gain that additional GCSE, and that is GCSE Statistics, which is called Option Plus, which is something that takes place after school. Our intent is that students selecting Option Plus would complete that by the end of year 10. So they would be doing additional lessons after school to gain their GCSE Statistics and study that after school. The second of the two pathways that I mentioned earlier was the open pathway. Now, the open pathway has a little bit more flexibility, but there is the potential with the open pathway that that does not lead to the English Baccalaureate or the EBAC. As with the traditional pathway, the core is absolutely identical, but the main difference here is the options. So within the open pathway, children will have to select either history, geography, French, Spanish, or German, computer science, or triple award science. So triple award science is where children, if they do select that, would use one of their option slots to study the additional elements that lead to a triple award in science, as opposed to the double award that they would get through the core. So it does give them an extra GCSE, so they end up with three separate grades within their science. The reason why we're asking children to study one of these elements is because these subjects are what the government are encouraging schools and students to promote as academic subjects, and of course as a school we believe that in order to achieve a broad and balanced curriculum, and as a school we really like to try and push and encourage as much as possible children to select a language. So we really want to try and encourage all of our children to select a GCSE, at least one GCSE from this pool of different subjects. So that then means that their second and third option choices come from the other range of subjects that we've got on offer. Although I do mention here on the third option where I say without doubling up, option 2, and I'll explain to you in a few moments about what that means. As with the open pathway and the traditional pathway, Option Plus remains GCSE Statistics, and it's open to all students. So the vocational pathway is really, as I said before, probably for only about 5% of our students within school. It is entirely flexible in terms of those options. The core remains absolutely identical for the vocational pathway as it is for the other two pathways. But ultimately, the options become entirely free for those children. So they will choose 3 options from the list that we provide. But of course, once again, we do stipulate that the children wouldn't double up. As I mentioned before, the option for GCSE Statistics, which is Option Plus, is an additional lesson that takes place after school. It is for higher tier only. Now, of course, there are a range of different students in the school who want to do an extra GCSE because they want that extra level of challenge, that academic challenge. And of course, because of that particular range of needs, that's why we've decided that this would be a higher tier only option. So it really is geared towards those children who are looking perhaps to go off to study GCSE, A-level mathematics, and those children who want that higher level of academic rigor. If students or you're interested in this as a possibility, we would ask students to submit a letter of application for this, outlining their reasons why they would like to do that. primarily because we want to get a sense of why they want to do that and what their level of commitment will be in terms of coming to those additional lessons after school. So yeah, it does require students to come after school, so that's something that we'd really want everyone to be fully aware of before they started that process. I mentioned doubling up a few moments ago and wanted to be clear with people about what I mean by doubling up. So doubling up would mean choosing 2 or more of the subjects that are on this list here. GCSE art, photography or textiles. Now, the reason for this is because the government and the Department for Education have determined that these subjects are so similar to one another that they actually count them as one GCSE. So if you are a student that achieves a GCSE in art and photography, they're really only considering that as one GCSE because the skills involved in those 2 GCSEs are so similar to one another. So as a school, we would not be encouraging any child to double up any of these subjects. So if you're going to choose one of them, you'd choose one of them only. GCSE textiles is a subject that I'd like to promote this year. It's something that we haven't run for the last year, certainly, because of numbers of children selecting that. But we do believe that it is a really important skill, and we'd like to promote that again this year as a GCSE for students. And we would like to run that with the appropriate number of children selecting that. So, key considerations for your child to consider this year. All GCSEs, all courses, if you've not heard this already, have now been revised and will be graded 9 to 1, where a grade 9 is the highest grade and a grade 1 is the lowest that anyone would achieve at GCSE. The government is really trying to promote children achieving at least a grade 4. But actually, the likelihood is that that will be a grade 5 in future. If you're wondering what a grade 4 and what a grade 5 looks like in terms of grades A stars to C, well, there's no direct correlation between a 4 and a particular grade, or a 5 indeed. But I would say that a grade 4 roughly translates to a mid to low grade C dipping into a grade D, whereas a level 5 is a top end grade C dipping into a grade B. So a 5 is really what the government is pushing for in terms of the standard that they want children to try and achieve in a GCSE. So in terms of key dates, we're probably limited by what we can do this year in the window that we have. And you might be wondering, why are we not delaying some of this? Well, of course, a lot of the options that your children choose determine how many of each of those different subject areas that we put on for next year. And of course, that information is what we need to find out in order to determine the staffing that are required next year. And of course, the window for recruitment for staff is between February time, really, and maybe about March to April time. So we really can't delay this process in terms of organising our option choices for next year, ultimately because of that need to ensure that we've got the appropriate staffing to accommodate all of those different choices. So you can see the range here of different activities is slightly different than what it will have been in previous years, simply because we're in a lockdown situation at the moment, and we can't quite do what we would normally do. But we have got a Year 9 Parents' Evening on offer for you as well, which will be online. All of the completion of forms and so on for children this year will also be online. There will be an option booklet for students which will be distributed this year, but unfortunately that won't be a physical copy. It will be something that we will provide to students electronically as well. So the deadline for submitting option choices will be online, and it is Friday the 29th of January. My strong advice is to please meet that deadline, and the submission of that deadline is crucially important, because once we have all of the option choices what we start to do then is create the option groups. And of course, the issue with not submitting it is that your child's option choices then don't get included into that piece of work, which means that there may be less chance of them getting their choices, because the way that this works is we try to manipulate our option blocks in order to try and get as many children as possible their choices. And I will say at this stage, it's really important that I get this message across. We cannot guarantee every child getting all of their choices. Usually each year we get about 95% of children getting their choices exactly as they wanted. And that's probably as good as any other school achieves with this. And my strong view is that it probably is the right thing to do, the way that we organize it. But of course, each year you do get a small group of children who might have selected 3 options which simply can't operate the way that they've selected them, that maybe 2 of their choices happen to be in the same option block, which means clearly they can't be in 2 places at the same time. So this isn't a personal thing. It is purely a case of trying to give as many children their choices as you possibly can, and therefore you know, it really is a case of making sure you meet that deadline, and ultimately that means that you're in a position to you know, you're in the best possible position. So questions, normally at this stage I would stand up and ask if anyone had any particular questions in terms of what we've talked about. This year obviously I don't have the opportunity to do that, so I felt that the best possible way to listen to your thoughts and concerns about this would be on our normal communication method through the online form, which is on our website. I would say, you know, please don't be worried about posting questions. I will come back to people. If you can leave me your individual details, then that's going to be an awful lot easier for me to go back to you. And of course, you know, this is really important. This is you know, a process that you know, that your child you know, they will want to get right, you'll want to get right as well, and you know, any support that we can give you as a school in order to help you make those decisions, we're very, very happy to do. So thank you once again for joining us this evening. There are a series of different videos that are linked to each of the different subjects. I would encourage you to go in and take a look at each of those. Even look at some of the ones that you may not have considered before, because of course you might find out something that you were unaware of. So I really encourage you to do that, and to let us know if there's once again, if there's any questions, or indeed if you've got any points that you'd like to raise with us. So thank you ever so much, and please do take care.